This is part 31 of LINQ tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss quantifiers in LINQ. All, any, and contains methods belong to quantifiers category. Quantifiers return true or false depending on whether if some or all of the elements in a sequence satisfy a condition. Let's look at these methods one by one with examples. All method returns true if all the elements in a sequence satisfy a given condition, otherwise false. Here's an example. Here we have got an integer array which contains numbers from 1 to 5. All method in this case is going to return true because all the elements in this number sequence satisfies this condition. Every element is less than 10. So all method in this case is going to return true. There are two overloaded versions of this any method. One version does not take any parameters. The other overloaded version takes predicate as a parameter. Using a predicate, we can specify a condition. Now the overloaded version, which does not take any parameters, simply checks if the sequence contains at least one element. Now numbers sequence contains at least one element, so any method in this case is going to return true. Now any method in this example here is checking at least one element in this number sequence satisfies this condition. Now none of the elements in this number sequence is greater than 10, which means none of the elements satisfies this condition, so any method in this case is going to return false. There are two overloaded versions of the contains method. One of the overloaded version takes only one parameter, the other overloaded version takes two parameters. Now contains method in this case is checking if this number sequence contains this element 3 using the default equality comparer. Now since this number sequence contains number 3, contains in this case is going to return true. Now here contains method is checking whether if this country's string array contains this country India, and notice that here we are passing another argument. So here we are passing an alternate equality comparer. Now if we don't pass this second argument here, this contains method is going to return false, because by default string comparison is going to be case sensitive. With the default equality comparer, that's what it does. So it will see India with small letters differently from India with capital letters, and for that reason contains method will return false. But here we are passing an alternate equality comparer and telling to ignore case while comparing strings. So contains method in this case is going to return true. Now when it comes to complex types like employee, customer, etc., the default equality comparer will only check if the object references are equal, not the individual properties values of the objects that are being compared. Now if you look at the example here, contains method in this case is going to return false. So notice that here we have a list of employees. At the moment we have got 2 employees within that list, and this contains method is checking, okay, this employees list, does it contain an employee with ID 101 and name Rosie? Yes, we do have such an employee within this list, but contains method in this case is going to return false. Why? That's because here we are using the overloaded version which takes only one parameter, so which means this is going to use the default equality comparer, and this default equality comparer by default will only check if the reference of this object equal to the reference of this employee object, and that's not true. There are 2 new employee objects, so the object references of that object and this object will be different, and as a result contains method will return false. But our intention here is to actually compare the individual property values of the objects, and if they are equal, then we want to treat them as equal objects. Now to solve this problem, there are 3 ways, and here are they. One of the ways is to use the other overloaded version of the contains method, to which we can pass a custom class that implements equality comparer. And the second option is to override equals and get hash code methods in employee class. And the third option, and the simplest option, is this, projecting the properties into a new anonymous type which overrides equals and get hash code methods behind the scenes. Now we discussed all of these 3 options in detail in part 26 of the LINQ tutorial when we were discussing distinct method. So in a similar fashion, these 3 options can be implemented for contains method as well. So please check part 26 from LINQ tutorial. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.